have someone in your life who gets defensive and just won't listen no matter how carefully you approach them? Have you tried all the tools and nothing seems to work? Then you, my friend, are in the right place, because today I'm going to teach you the research-backed secret to approaching people so they'll stop being defensive and finally listen to all the amazing things you've got to say. And I have a very exciting announcement, so stay tuned. Well, welcome back. Welcome back to the podcast. I am your host, Dr. Abby Medcalf. You already know that by now. And I'm very excited for today's topic because a lot of people wrote in different ways. You know, I'd have the Ask Dr. Abby, and sometimes the Ask Dr. Abby's, as you've noticed, have just become podcasts in themselves. Like I just go, instead of sort of just answering off the cuff, I really go and do some research and get things really dialed in for you because I love you. So if you wrote in with a question or just a podcast topic, which was also there, then this is for you. You know, and for everyone else who could use it. And I'm excited right now. I got stuff going on. So first of all, I was quoted in the New York Times. Yes, your girl quoted in the New York Times last week, the week before. Very exciting. It was an article on how to help someone through divorce, and it just felt really exciting to be quoted there. It was one of my goals, and definitely New York Times bestselling author is also, I'm an Amazon #1 bestselling author, but I want to be a New York Times #1 bestselling author. So yes, so I'm setting my sights on that. You heard it here first. And then the really important thing I want to share is that I have a new website launched. So we've, really updated the website. There's all kinds of amazing things there for you now. And we have merchandise. I've been talking about the merchandise for, about 3 months now. 4 months? 5 months? I don't know. Long time. It's here. It's now. It's wow. And there's something special for you because you're listening. So listen up. This is really important. So the merchandise on the website, really excited about. And we have, mugs and t-shirts and tote bags and all the things, really cool notebooks. And they have things on them like self-meditated and, under the influence of love and addicted to hope and all the good things, really, because I love inspirational things around me. So I created them to have even more. And because you are listening and listening sort of soon to when this drops, you get 10% off all the merchandise that you want to buy. I don't care how much you buy. You get to have 10% off of it. And the code, get ready to write it down. Get ready. Here we go. Is LOVEIT. LOVEIT. All caps. Love it. All caps. Love it. One word, just together, all capitals, love it. And it's good until, I want to be clear, it's only good for a month from the date this podcast drops. So it's good until March 8th, 2022. So I'm not sure what, somebody might be listening to this in 2024, and I'm sorry, you missed it. But I'm sure I have other deals by then. But right now, you have that time. You can go in there, and I hope you find things that inspire you and that motivate you and help keep you on track during your day. Every time you pick up your coffee mug or tea or, whenever you go to write in your journal, you really get sort of reminded of the things that I think are super important. So take advantage of that. Again, it's good for this next month till March 8th, 2022. I'm not sure exactly when you're listening to this. So, get your buy on, get your shopping on. It's here for you, but I really do want to thank you for, being here with me. And I wanted to offer something for the people who really, there's so many of you write in and really listen dutifully and wonderfully every week and really can't wait for the next episode to drop. So I put so much work into these for you because I love you so much and I want us all to get really well and healthy and live in an amazing world. So this is just another way that I'm trying to spread the love. And I almost forgot to say, do not feel guilty if you want to share the 10% off coupon with someone you love. I'm cool. Like, it's cool. We are here to spread the love, to just be it, have it everywhere. Don't spread the love in an icky way. You know what I'm saying here? Okay. No spreading the love in, disgusting ways, but in wonderful ways, I'm down. So, so don't feel, you're not being sketchy if you say, hey, give it to your best friend or something. I'm all good with it. Okay. So let's talk about our topic. Now, first, you have to understand why people are defensive. Because when I give you, again, this research and the tools, I'm going to give you, of course, some very specific tools. It'll make more sense if you understand the why, right? If you really have that in your head. And I'm going to just tell you this. People are defensive for one main reason. You already know it. You just don't always think about it. One reason that you feel defensive, that someone else feels defensive, it's because they're feeling attacked. There's other things. Don't write in and yell at me. I understand there's other things that come to play. There's always, as I always say, a perfect storm of things. But mostly, it's really, when it boils down, someone is feeling attacked. And I know, I see you. I see you. I'm here with you. I know you're likely thinking, but how is that possible? I approach my partner so nicely. How could my mom feel attacked when all I do is walk on eggshells around her? Or I was so patient and calm when I spoke to my coworker, right? Well, that can all be very true, but you've got to remember and, tattoo this on your ass. Attack is in the eye of the beholder. Attack is really up to someone else, what they feel. I get it. I don't ever mean to attack anyone. I shouldn't say ever, but very rare. I can't imagine. So rare. I'm just not that gal, but people feel it, right? Sometimes they feel attacked by me, even though my intentions are fabulous, of course. And I'm going to give you an example. How do you like that? I'm going to give you some love right now. I was speaking with a client it's probably about 3 weeks ago now. And I had gently said something about, she had come to me with anger issues. That was the original reason she came to, start therapy with me. And I gently said something about how she needed to take responsibility for her angry outbursts with her kids. And she had really gone off in front of her children and she scared them. And one of them was crying. It was a whole thing. So, and next thing I knew, right? So we're talking and again, you know me, I said it really gently and lovingly, and she burst into tears, angry tears, not she was angry, and really told me that she felt berated. She felt shamed by me. She wasn't paying to be bullied. She literally used that word. And I thought, bullied? Moi? I was kind of dumbfounded for a moment. I really was. We've had a good relationship and I thought we were sort of, in a place where we, I've said harder things to her before and she's really taken them well and opened up and we've had amazing conversations. So I was shocked and she was reacting, right? And it took me just a minute, thank God, little moment there, but because she was reacting, it was so far from how I was feeling or what my intentions were. I mean, I was not feeling at all like she was a terrible mother. I felt such compassion for her. And I was thinking about how, it's so painful to yell at your kids or to, have yelled in front of them or to done something that hurt your children. It's the worst. And how do you not have compassion? I'm a mom. That's just the worst. So now, again, so in this situation, it was actually pretty easy for me to see what was going on, right? Hello, trained psychologist. And this was not my mother or sister or best friend, so I wasn't taking it personally. But obviously you can see how hard this same situation would be with someone you're close to, or you maybe have had a history of them being, or you being defensive and angry, right? So that can be the thing, and even without having all the baggage, it took a minute, but I was definitely able to speak to her using some of the tools I'm going to share with you today. But I was able to really speak to her in such a way that she was able to see her overreaction and total misinterpretation of literally what I'd said, what came out of my mouth, because she had gone on and on about how I called her a terrible mother. She literally said that. And I was like, I did not say those words. And of course, and then as we talked some more, she was able to say that, it's kind of not common maybe, but that she's told often enough that she blows things out of proportion, makes mountain out of molehills kind of things. And so she was able to really connect to that and realize that this was one of those moments. And she actually had a great aha in all there, which was amazing. And I did too. We really talked about, it wasn't like I just said, oh, well, that's your reaction. I was totally in the right. I really talked to her about what the words I was saying and how, where it went left and and for myself, how I could try to be a little different in the future, right? And again, using the tools I'm going to teach you, I could have done it a little different in the future. I could have, a little bit predicted that this was going to be really hard for her. And I was just going off the past of, kind of how our relationship had been without really giving that much thought. So, I had responsibility here too. There was no two ways about it. But, what was really going on was that my lovely, amazing, and she's amazing client, she was ashamed of the way she'd acted to her children. She was embarrassed. She obviously felt super vulnerable speaking to me about it and letting me see this, her true self, these parts of herself that she hated about herself, that she didn't like about herself, that again, she felt a shame about. So when I talked to her, when I said this about taking responsibility, she felt attacked because all that shame came to the surface and she was lashing out defensively. There it is, right? So defensiveness is just that. It's an ego defense. And it's really meant to protect our little psyches from harm. It's a suit of armor we put on so we don't have to listen, don't have to acknowledge, don't have to change our own behavior. Think about it. If I think of myself as a good person, like this client did, she thought of herself as a good mother because she was. So if I'm a good mother, right? And then Abby points out something I did that doesn't feel good, how would a good mother yell at her kids? Then, I did something wrong and that's what happens a lot when we're giving someone feedback. We're quote unquote pointing out something they did wrong, right? Something that we don't like, which means it must be wrong. So my ego is going to tell me not to listen to that because I'm a good person. I wouldn't have done this wrong thing. I wouldn't be a bad mother. It doesn't line up with the way we think about ourselves. So again, defensiveness comes into play. I'm a good person. That means whatever you're telling me is BS. It's bullshit. And I get to deny it in some way. So see how that works? Okay. And people are defensive also because taking responsibility for their actions feels scary. It just feels scary, either because they're worried about you not loving them. There's this insecurity there. If I really say this, then, you'll think I'm a bad person and you won't love me anymore and you'll leave me. And really it's related to, that I'm unlovable somehow. Or again, because they're worried about being abandoned or rejected for doing something wrong, which might have happened in your childhood, which might be something you saw, your parents doing to each other. Who knows? But it feels like at a core level, like something really bad that you're trying to avoid. And I really want you to get this part. Believe it or not, the vast majority of people, including you, are not trying to be defensive. Defensiveness is so largely unconscious. It's a knee-jerk reaction. It's a defense mechanism because it's a learned behavior. Babies aren't defensive. It's become a habit. It's a learned behavior that's become a habit. Taking a drink of water. Noticing myself coughing there a little bit. Even I can't talk nonstop without a little sip of water. Okay. So hopefully that makes sense. And I want to just quickly, before I get to my little tips here and the research, I want to just say that defensiveness shows up, I think, in some obvious ways, but also some sneaky ways that people don't even realize that they're being defensive. And this might be you, or this might be, again, someone you're thinking about. But so some of the ways, and some of them, again, are obvious. Anger, it's a little more obvious. And the turning it around. So you confront let's say your partner with something they did, and they say something like, oh, you say, I don't listen. What about you? You never listen, right? And they sort of, what do you mean I'm late? You're always late. What about the other day when you didn't do this thing? They immediately shift it. That's defensiveness, right? That's just, that. Some of gaslighting is not on purpose. Everyone, we hear that term gaslighting, we always think of narcissists. And so if you tell someone they're gaslighting, they get very angry and upset. And I believe that not all gaslighting is intentional. And I know that some people feel like it's, well, it must be intentional because that's the origin of gaslighting. It comes from I think it's the Hitchcock movie Gaslighting, right? Gaslight. And I've done all episodes on gaslighting you can go refer to, but I believe that I know I've said things sometimes. It's like such a innate thing. It's like so in the fabric of something that we do it without really realizing that it's gaslighting. So some behaviors like, like, why are you always criticizing me? Right? Why are you always criticizing me? Again, that kind of always and never talk is a bit gaslighting. So first of all, you're not always doing it, right? And when people are lashing out with that, and it's a way of really pushing people away and telling them that they have this other reality, that they always gaslight, that's all they always criticize, that's all they do. And that's kind of, to me, a little bit of sometimes intentional, but sometimes unintentional gaslighting. Minimizing, I think, comes up a lot as some unintentional gaslighting. Why are you so upset about this? You shouldn't be so upset about this. I don't know why everything bothers you. We say, I don't know, if you're human, I think if you're human, you've said something like that. I don't know anyone who hasn't. I mean, in a moment of despair or defensiveness and not seeing things, you said that. It doesn't mean you're a narcissist. It doesn't mean that you're a gaslighter. It means that you had this moment of doing that. It's just it's like if you get angry at things. It doesn't mean you're an angry person. It just means that you have moments of anger, So I do want to put that out there. I might get some hate emails for this, but I don't care, because it's the truth. And so just think about it, if you've used that stuff. And you can use a different title if you don't like thinking of gaslighting. But it's definitely in defense. How's that? It's just defensiveness. Acting the victim. So I see this one with some regularity, and this to me is a little more sneaky defensiveness. Again, very unconscious by people, but sometimes you'll tell someone something that you'd like them to change, or, you give them feedback and they take too much of the blame. You tell your partner you don't like something they did, or you tell a coworker or whoever. I know I'm talking about partners a lot in this, but obviously this applies to all relationships. But you tell someone something you don't like that, they did, and they say, I know, I'm such a piece of shit. I'm the worst. I'm such an asshole. Da da da. I've had this happen in session with couples. And next thing you know, right, you've given the person this feedback. They're just like, I know, I can't seem to change this. I'm so terrible. I don't know why you're with me. And now you're taking care of them. Now you feel bad. Well, that's defensiveness, because we're not going to talk about the thing, because now I just crumpled into a ball of goo at your feet. So there's no person here to talk with. So believe it or not, that is often an unconscious way of being defensive. Some more obvious ones are justifying, arguing that what you did was okay because of X, Y, and Z, that's defensive. Clearly blaming is defensive. I can never do anything right around here. I act this way because you're always nagging me. Blaming someone else for the behavior. Another one that's a little unconscious, I think, is the silent treatment. I think it's sneaky. I think most of these are unconscious. I don't think people a lot of times realize that the silent treatment is being defensive. Getting the cold shoulder. We're not having the conversation. I'm going to threaten you with silence if you bring it up again. So no matter the reason, no matter what it is, it doesn't, again, you know me, I like to give you the reasons, but don't spend your whole day thinking about why. Just get to the doing. Just get to, well, it's here and I have to deal with it. So that's enough. So no matter the reason, it's up to you to remember that, what do I say all the time? You co-create all your relationships, including this one with, Debbie defensive or Donald defensive. Okay. So it's up to you to take responsibility for your side of the street. I know. I'm sorry, but it is. Okay. But I'm going to give you help, because that's what I do, because I love you. All right. So here's the secret to dealing with defensive people. And believe it or not, there's actually been a ton of research on what works best when someone is defensive. And here's what we know from the research. Here's what's been like in a preponderance of research, okay, in a lot of different studies. And I will always link at least to one or two of those in the notes. I don't like having my show notes or blog posts just full of it just gets ridiculous. If you're that interested, go look it up yourself. But I'll give you a little love. I'll give you a little place to start. where the research is. And it does worry me sometimes that there's so much information out there that's not based on research. That's just sort of like what seems like a good idea. And it doesn't mean it is. It worries me a little bit. But anyway, so here's what we know. Defensiveness gets worse when people respond to us negatively. And let me get granular here. If we feel rejected or stigmatized in any way, we get more defensive. And this is important. I'm going to, bring this into the tips. And it might seem obvious to you, but I don't think you realize this if someone's being defensive and that keeps happening, then you're not really realizing this. You're not really taking this to heart. And on the other hand, defensiveness is reduced when we feel secure, respected, and valued in our group, in our homes, in our family of origin, in our workspaces, with our romantic partners, our groups, So you can see already that the tips I'm going to give you are very focused on this. And that's, again, I think what's been missing a lot. So, and this research also recommends, like, especially this one study, by the way, to my Australian peeps, go Australia. There was a lot of research. Australia has some damn good researchers. This is a Flinders University in Australia. I'm 99% sure. I apologize if I'm getting this wrong. It's going to be in the notes, so it'll be for sure. But it's Flinders, and the research recommends this, and I'm going to kind of quote it. It's emphasizing respect and value for the person, even if you disagree with their views or actions. Okay. In addition, it's important to provide an opportunity for the other person to express their values before talking about a specific problem. I know. So I'm going to operationalize that for you in my tips. All this research, I'm going to put it into action. So here's the deal. Let me just say this. We humans have a primitive, neurologically wired, psychological need to feel valued and included within our primary groups. Again, work, friends, family of origin, all the things, as and our romantic partners, obviously. So when someone thinks we did something wrong or tells us something they don't like, this hardwired need, right, is threatened. And that drives the defensive response. That's that idea. We feel threatened, attacked. Remember I said attack before? That's what's going on. And then we're more and more defensive. So when you're speaking to another person about something, something you want to address, you have to keep in mind their deep need to belong and be valued. And you can reduce the defensiveness that's coming at you. Yes. Isn't that cool? So, and again, there's sometimes like 1,000 tips you'll hear, but if they don't incorporate these things that we know work, what are you doing? All right. So with this research in mind, I have my top 3 tips that I'm going to give to you right now. And you can use one of these, all of these, whatever works for you. So tip number 1 is timing. And I've talked about this before, but now you see it ground in the research. One of the biggest issues I see all the time that leads to a defensive reaction is when people choose when people choose to have conversation. Right? When? What? You've heard me say this 1,000 times. If you've been here with me, you've heard me say this 1,000 times. You have to connect to correct. And now you really know why, given the research. Yes, it's here. The best time to have a conversation is when you're in a good place and feeling connected to the other person. I know you want to avoid harder conversations when you're getting along because you're thinking, well, I don't want to rock the boat now. Like, we're getting along. I don't want to do this now. But again, that's the best time to bring something up and not get a defensive response. That's the best time to have a great conversation when you're getting along. So this is really what you want to do. And I understand that there are times when you're just in a terrible place with someone already, so you're not going to be able to do that one. I get it. That's why I have 2 other tips. So don't worry. I got you. As my son says, I got you, fam. I got your back. So I get it. But if you can do tip number 1, I want you to. If you can't, if you're already like in a shit show with this person, I'm swearing a lot today, aren't I? I'm having a day. There you go. Just hang out. If it's already yucky with this person and there's not much, it's like, I can't wait for a good time, it's not going to happen, then skip that. Okay. Tip number 2. And this one you can always do no matter what. I want you to set that intention before you talk about what you want to talk about. I want you to set it first and out loud. If you're focusing on being effective, you need your intention to be focused on the other person feeling valued and respected. Okay? Right? What did we just say? That's how you know you'll get less. You get less defensiveness. And I don't care if you hate Bob from work. I always say Bob at work, don't I? Bob from accounting. I don't care. I don't care if he's such a jerk. Oh my gosh, a misogynistic, racist jerk. I don't care. You're going to have to, if you want to get heard, if you want to quit the job or run him out of town or something else, have at it. But otherwise, if you got to work with this person, you got to figure this out, and you have to have a way of connecting and talking. And by the way, if you could get a way of connecting and talking, it's possible you'd be able to mention these other icky things Bob's got going on, and have it be heard. So there you go. So start where you start. So, and I'm sure if there isn't a Bob who works in accounting listening, I'd love to hear from you. Just, send me an email going, hey, Abby, stop using my name and job. Okay. But if you do that, email me. I want you to give me a name I should use and a new department I should use. That's what I want to hear. Okay, there you go. You can get off the hook and I can start using something else. I like that little interaction, little love between us. Okay, so there's tens of thousands of people listening. It's a good shot that someone's named Bob in accounting. Okay, so here we go. So how do you do this? I'm going to give you a bunch of examples, but it's something like, I'm excited to speak with you about something. Maybe this is your partner, okay? Because I'm really looking forward to us deepening our relationship. Do you see where that went? A way to show the value. I feel so supported by you, and I deeply appreciate the many ways you see me, many ways you care for me. And there are some other ways I'd feel appreciated. And I want to talk about them and also ask you what ways you'd like to feel seen and heard that I might be missing. Remember earlier when I talked about the research, it's also about getting them to say what the value, the respect that they have, like where they are coming from. So that one is a double. That takes care of all of it. And you can even say, we can start with you if you like, if you want. Let's start with you. Another thing you could do, setting intention, being clear out loud first. Hey, Joe, I want us to talk about X, and I want you to know that it's my deep intention to listen fully to everything you say. My biggest goal, let me say this well, my biggest goal is that you feel heard and understood. I also want you to know that I take full responsibility in this relationships, and that's why I want to speak to you. We're co-creating this together, and I want it to be amazing for both of us. So I want us both here. I'm trying to get brilliant here. You can approach someone. I want to speak to you about X, whatever it is, and I want to be clear that my only goal is that we become closer and have a deeper, more loving relationship from this conversation. And I am going to do everything I can in this conversation to make sure that that happens. At work, obviously, you don't want to talk about deepening the love. So it might be something like, I want to speak about X, and my only goal is for us to find a solution together that really fits for both of us. I value you. Hopefully you can say that, or I value your work or whatever. And I want you to feel that. For me, it won't be a good solution unless you feel heard and seen as we're talking right now. Can you imagine if someone said those things to you? If they were coming to you with something they wanted to work on or something they wanted to change, and they came, hello, you'd be putty in their hands. Well, it really, really works. And I've shared on the podcast before, times I've done this when I'm doing consulting, times I've done this just with clients in general, times I've done this with my kids, with Gary, with, friends. Like, I've done this before when I was, thinking we might have something really, matter of fact, I just did it recently with my wonderful son, Max, who we're talking about colleges, and just the talk of it gets him very defensive because he has a lot of shame about bad grades, and he hadn't done so well for a long time. He did recently turn that around, which is very exciting. Got all A's last semester, like out of nowhere. Not out of nowhere, out of a lot of work, but anyway. there's just a lot of nervousness that he has about it. He's terrified. So whenever I bring it up, he so when I start with, hey, we're going to find a solution together. I want to talk about college, and I want to hear from you what you're feeling about it. What runs through your head when I even say, let's talk about college. And, starting from that place so that I don't get all the defensiveness and all the, I don't want, or the yelling or the whatever. He doesn't really yell at me, or ever. I shouldn't say really. He's never yelled at me. He doesn't do that. But do you know what I'm saying? I don't want him to be on the defense and then nothing happens. So all of that, setting it out loud and doing it in that very particular way where you're thinking about them feeling affirmed, included, respected, valued, right, will take you so friggin' far. It's not even funny. Okay. Tip number 3, make it a we thing. It's a we thing. Yeah. What do I always talk about? So, but based on the research I just mentioned, right? Again, you want this other person to feel included. Okay. Again, not like an outcast or not rejected in any way. And the easiest way to do this, and something I've been advocating for years, I mean, come on, since day one of the podcast, you want to approach the other person from a we perspective. Before you speak to them about what's bothering you or what you want to change, I need you to stop and think about how to approach them from the us thing, from like, this is a problem for everybody. This is an issue we all have to talk about. You want to spend some time and think about how to not blame them in any way, or not to be angry or frustrated with them, not to go in the conversation with that because they're not going to feel like a we, but to instead see how you could approach the issue from a team perspective, right? See how you could bring it. Like, I think a example I use a lot because it comes up a lot. Let's say you're unhappy with your sex life, okay? And you want to speak to your partner about it. And if you think about it as a we thing, not I'm right, they're wrong, and they need to, I want more sex, so that's the right thing, so they need to do it. You want to think about it again together. Think about how you're not right for wanting more sex and how your partner isn't wrong for not being as interested, or vice versa. And instead, think with compassion and openness about the entire situation, right? Mostly, the most important thing, instead of making statements, what do I always say? Come on. You have to know. I'm going to take a sip of water as you think. What do I always say? Don't sack. Don't offer suggestions. Don't give advice. And don't criticize. So instead, you want to ask those collaborative questions. And I will have a list of collaborative questions ready for you. abbymedcalf.com/podcast. Come on over to the show notes page or look at the corresponding blog. It'll be in either place. And I will have, for free, a list of collaborative questions. If you haven't downloaded them yet, you want them. They're really good. I give them to my clients all the time. So this is the same thing people pay a lot of money for. I hand to my clients. So you want to ask questions that are open-ended and meant to really open the dialogue up. Right? So again, when you're getting along, you might ask, let's say, again, you want more sex than they want, and they don't. Let's say it's that. So you're getting along. So you're thinking, okay, this is a we thing. How can I come at this from another direction? So to me, the very best question to ask ever in the history of questions is, what would you like to see more of in our sex life? Ask that. What would you like to see more of? And that will also probably clue you into how you could get more sex if you do the things. Could help. You could also ask, what would you like to see less of when we talk about sex? Or what would you, I don't like that as much because I think it gets into a weird area. But what would you like to see more of? And if the person doesn't have an answer, wait it out. Say, all right, I want you to think about it and come back. Like, let's talk about it another time. If that really stonewalls, you could ask something like, what are the ways you feel close to me? What are the things I do? What do I say when you feel the closest to me? how am I acting? How am I treating you? What specific things am I doing that you go, oh my God, I'm married to the greatest person alive, or I'm, with the greatest person alive. When you find out that gold, it's a beautiful thing, right? When you're finding out, we call these bright spots. I did a whole episode on bright spots. When you ferret those out and get like what's working and really focus on what's working and do more of it, it's a beautiful thing. But no matter what, I'm just going to say this overall, you've got to go into conversations with an intention to be compassionate and curious. That has to be what's happening as you enter into whatever this conversation is with your partner, with your boss, with your brother, your mom, whoever. You've got to have that first. But hopefully now, when you're seeing that what the research is showing and really understanding that that's what's in the way, it's like magic when you use these pieces. And you just have to make sure it's authentic. If you really hate Bob in accounting, send me that email, Bob. If you really don't like Bob, you can't say, you're a good guy. That's not real, right? It's not true. But maybe Bob really does do a good job in accounting. Maybe he values the company a lot. Maybe you can believe that he's actually out for the best interest of the company, even though he acts like an a-hole about it. There's probably something there you could find to key into and say, I get it. You care a lot about this company. It's obvious. And I need to respect that. And to me, you're someone, maybe in that way I aspire to be like that. That's great. It's just got to be authentic. And again, don't say anything that doesn't feel true. But when you let someone know that you value them, that you respect them, that you, maybe whatever it is, that you have that makes all the difference. But you have to say that out loud. And again, and finding out from them what they need, and even starting with that when you have an issue, is how it all starts to open up, how it all starts to be different. Okay. And that's it for how to get someone to stop being defensive and start listening to all the great things you have to say. Even though I just told you can't offer suggestions, give advice, or criticize. But so you might be realizing that some of the things you have to say aren't really sayable, that you have to think about a different way to approach and have true communication. But that's it for this week. I know that if you're listening to this when it first drops, it's Valentine's Day next week, the week after. And I won't be talking to you again until after Valentine's Day is over here in the United States and other places that celebrate it. So remember, I love you. I don't know who else you've got to be your Valentine. I am your Valentine too. I just adore you. I love our time together. I love your questions. I love researching and figuring out great ways to give you the information. Crazy as that might sound, it's the truth. And, I love having this relationship with you. So I feel like your Valentine. If you feel lonely this Valentine's Day or like someone's not getting you, I get you. I'm here. There you go. Feel free to send me some Valentine's love if you're up for it. I don't know. Email me, abby@abbymedcalf.com. Send me a question. Send me something, a topic you'd like covered. Tell me just how fabulous the podcast is. Tell me how much you like the merchandise. Oh my God, I love my mug. I'm just sipping from it right now. Whatever works. I always like hearing from you, and anyone who has ever written in before knows I do respond. Sometimes it takes me a minute, but I absolutely make it a priority to respond to everyone. I know, crazy. It's some time every week, but I think it's important, again, because we're all in this together. All right, have an amazing week, and I will talk to you soon.